as you can tell, this is as least professional as it's ever going to get.
Yeah. We were hoping that was just the first time, but no, we're on episode 3 now and we're still the same. Hi and welcome back to the shipyard. This is our third video. Hopefully you've seen our other two about moonlighting and who's the boss. We make videos talking about shows with ships, especially Slow Burn, Willy Wonka's, blah blah blah. Apologies, we weren't able to upload at the start of June, but real life unfortunately threw us a bit of a curveball, so we had to take some time off. But we're back and we're talking about possibly our favourite show of all time, which is something that's very important to us because it's how we met, and that show is Peter Kay's Car Share, BBC One sitcom started in 2015 I think, and ended in 2018, and it is how Lucy and I got to know each other. Oh yeah, I never said our names, that might be a help, isn't it? I'm Dawn. That's Lucy.
Welcome back.
And you may notice at the start of this video that this episode is dedicated to Rob Daly. Rob is a friend of ours, and I'll let Lucy explain why we've dedicated this episode to Rob.
Okay, we'll go into a little bit more detail in a moment about how Dawn and I met, but I was a fan of Car Share in the first season, but I didn't become involved in the Twitter fan base until season 2. And I kind of stumbled across it a little bit by accident. It was after, obviously at the end of season 1, Kaylee gives John the now 48 CD. And anyway, when season 2 was airing, I'd moved back to London, and my friend Sarah is a DJ, and I'd have to do a karaoke, and I stumbled across Now 48 in her CD collection, and I made her play songs from it at the karaoke disco all night. But while I was doing it, I was tweeting about it, and Rob noticed my tweets, and his massive knowledge of music, I think that also caught his attention, and we got chatting, and introduced me to other people in the fandom, and we became friends online. And yeah, I think he was a real mainstay of the Twitter Car Share fan base, and yeah, he's sorely missed. He passed away sadly last year due to COVID, which was why Peter, Sean and Paul kindly dedicated the audio episode to him, but that is why we're dedicating it to him.
Yeah, he was really the central figure in the Car Share fandom, and the way a lot of us got to know each other through Rob, because he always replied to everybody's tweets, anybody who tweeted about Car Share or especially about music. And we still listen to Rob's playlists all the time that he made on Spotify. He had as much, if not more, music knowledge than as Peter Kay. So he would have been a good a good pub quiz team, the two of those together.
Yeah, he would have given him a run for his money, I think.
Yes. So we really miss Rob, and but it's because of him. He introduced Lucy to me, or me to Lucy, whichever way, and that's how we became friends. So it's partly his fault. All of it, everything. So Car Share, yeah, we the reason Car Share fandom is what I think took off so much is because Peter Kay did something quite I won't say unusual, because I suppose it's quite a typical thing to have a cliffhanger, but he ended the second season on a major cliffhanger of John and Kaylee, the two main characters, being split forever. and he insinuated, I won't say he said directly, insinuated that was the last episode and there would never be any more. And some of us didn't believe it.
Had a very clever play on words.
Yeah.
He kept saying we're not going. He never said there was never going to be any more.
That's
I
right.
went with a few of the other girls from the fandom to see Peter Kay do a Q&A in Manchester in the July after the finale aired, and there was questions galore about, is it going to be released on DVD, which did eventually happen. I guess why is it? I guess we're not filming any more episodes. We're not going to be filming any more episodes. And it was like, okay. And then it was like, well, okay, so he wasn't lying, but
yes. Yeah.
Then what led to what is affectionately known as Banjo Gate.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was Amy or one of the younger people in the fandom who coined the term Banjo Gate. I don't know who it was, but it comes from an episode of Car Share where Kaylee manipulates John into going for a day out at the Spy Park, and he says to her, "You've played me like a banjo, haven't you?" So we took that because Peter played us like banjos. We all had a suspicion that isn't the end. There's going to be a happy ending, because we know from things Peter said in the past that he loves happy endings. He doesn't like perhaps realistic but depressive endings. He likes a happy ending. He likes a resolution. And he talked about, I just reread this the other day, he talked about Just Good Friends a lot and said he didn't want to do what they did, which was have an unhappy ending, and then the public absolutely outcried and they came back with a happy ending.
Between the Banjo Gate era, between the end of season 2 and the Children in Need, where it was revealed there was going to be more, he was saying, oh yeah, but it wasn't ever meant to be a romance, it was just about two friends, it was just meant to be a comedy. You go back and watch these episodes, and Peter Kay is meticulous for detail, and you cannot tell me that this was never going to be really a romance, but it was, yes, it might have been subtle, but it was there. I mean, just in episode 6 of the first series, Kaylee has having to move in with her sister because her brother's having to move away to Cyprus with the army, and so it's their last day of working together, and they give each other presents, and Extreme More Than Words is playing in the background, and it's such a lovely scene, and you're sitting there thinking, really, this is not a romance, this is not a subtle show about two people that do care about each other, and it's like, yeah, I don't buy it for a second.
So I think that if we go back to the start, Car Share is I suppose in a way a very traditional Odd Couple type sitcom, in the sense that it's a man and a woman forced to share a circumstance. In this case, it's a car share going to work. They both work in a supermarket, and they've introduced a scheme of car sharing, or carpooling as the Americans call it, and they are immediately opposites, and they have the classic personalities of an Odd Couple type thing, in that Kaylee is very open and, I wouldn't say adventurous, but go for it, a kind of go for it kind of girl, and very lives life to the full. She likes to party, she likes to have a good time. And John is very staid and risk aversive. He does not like taking risks, and he is old fashioned in a way, in quite a few ways. And he likes things to be, he really cares about what people think about him, so he likes to play things very straight down the line, whereas Kaylee doesn't seem to care at all. Good for her.
More carefree, I think.
Sorry?
She's more carefree than John, yes. Most definitely.
Definitely. And that initially obviously causes them to sort of not rub, I wouldn't say rub each other the wrong way, but there's a disconnect.
In the first half of the first episode, John initially doesn't want to instigate any kind of conversation with Kaylee. It's all a little bit of an effort, because she's constantly asking questions, which she says later because she's nervous. She asks a lot of things, and he reluctantly answers them. And then obviously when she chucks her wee all over him, you have to watch the episode if you've not seen it. There's a little bit of tension there, but I think by the time so it was a little bit strange to start off with, but then after that lunch break, it's a lot more relaxed. He starts telling her about his girlfriend Anna, how we went on the train, how he threw up on his hand, and then they pull up outside the house and they joke that she calls him a big gay mute and he calls her a piss-throwing psycho, and it's like they're already at that level at the end of the first day that they can insult each other and not be offended. It's like,
Yeah.
so it happens really quickly that this suddenly within the space of a day, it's quite a rapid progression.
But I think for car share, one of the things that is vital for car share is the music. Music is a big thing for a lot of ships. You know, as fans, we tend to make music videos with compilations of clips, and you put a song that you think is appropriate for that couple on them. Car share, it's already built in. You don't need to do that.
You know, it's like Peter Kay says that the Forever FM, the radio station that they listen to in the car, is the third character without the music. And without the I mean, because a lot of 9 times out of 10, the music is playing in the background. If you listen to the lyrics, they're relevant to what's actually going on the screen. If that wasn't present, I don't know if it would have quite the same impact. If you went away and watched that final scene from season 1, episode 6, where they're exchanging presents, without Extreme not playing in the background, yes, it would be a lovely scene, but it would lack a little something.
Yeah, it adds. It, as I said on our other podcast, which we'll tell you about later, it's like the Greek music. The music tells you what's actually going on in the scene as subtext, what they're thinking. Scenes like in episode 5, when Kaylee's telling John that she is going to have to sell her house and she's going to have to move in with her sister in Bury, which is miles away, and so he's not going to be able to drive her to work every day. And the song playing in the background is Drive by the Cars. Who's going to drive you home tonight? Is a literal lyric. But there are a lot of other ones which are maybe a bit more subtle, but they do give the feeling of what exactly is going on. When John's talking about his losing his dad, Ordinary World by Duran Duran is playing, and that adds something. And in the finales, oh, the music in that is just unbelievable. And there's the scene where before they get together, but they know they're going to meet up again. The song Waiting in Vain plays by Annie Lennox, and I'd never heard that song before, despite the fact I do have several Annie Lennox albums. I've never heard that, and it is just beautiful. It adds so much to it. The music is just a real adds a huge layer, and that was Peter Kay's influence, wasn't it? It was not part of the show originally.
No, I think I read somewhere that they, like, Paul Shan and Peter sat down and they like debate. I had a really long discussion about what songs to include, and I think it's brilliant, and I think it really does bring that extra level.
Yeah, I think the show was originally created by Paul Coleman and Tim Reed, and Paul Coleman is a friend of Peter Kay's, for those who don't know the story, and but it was originally about sort of 20-something characters, and Paul took the script to Peter just to say, what do you think of this? And when Peter saw it, he loved it, and he thought, hang on, this is something that Shan and I could play, because Shan is his friend from college. And so they changed it to be slightly older, and Peter added elements like the music. So it is interesting to wonder what would the show have looked like before.
I think if you were to have, say they were going to do it again, exactly the same dialogue, the same setup, the same scenes, but with 2 20-somethings, it wouldn't be as believable. No. I think because these characters are worn, they've, like, they're in their late 30s, they've experienced, they've been hurt, and they're guarded. Yeah, so I think with 20-something, it could be funny, it could be good, but it wouldn't have the same influence, because what makes these characters who they are is their experiences. Well, this is what's led them up to that point. Kaylee's just looking for love. She just wants to be happy. She's seen it with her younger sister. She's happily married. She's got kids. She's been hurt. And at 36 years old, she just wants to be settled down. And John, he's been married. He's been engaged. It might not have been something that he particularly wanted. but that ended quite badly, and he's been hurt, and he's put his guards up. Where Kaylee's going all out with the dating websites to try and find love because she doesn't want to be on her own. John's the complete opposite. He's like, I'm done with love. I'm not going anywhere near it. Women are all psychos. And they're both going about it in different ways, but when what they're looking for is right under their noses.
You said, just to say, you said John had been married, but you meant John hadn't been married, just to be clear.
Yes, so he'd been engaged, and and
yeah.
I'm just saying you were paying attention. So
yeah. I was honest, I was listening.
She's watching again. Well, carry on talking when she starts, but yes, you were paying attention.
Yes, I think one of the key things about car share is a very tropey thing is that they change each other. Although to be fair, Kaylee doesn't change much. Kaylee changes John. John is so reserved and so scared of being hurt and hurting somebody else and just of what people think of him, as we said. He is completely closed off, but with Kaylee, she slowly starts to get him to open up and change his ways.
But I think all through the first season, you think he's like he's her boss, and he's set in his ways. But then in the end of the first episode of the last episode of the first season, you actually find out, he's in a band and he does music, and he has this other line. Is like he only stumbled into that career by default. He was going to go to music college. You find out this other side to him, and he feels it's starting to get to the point he's comfortable enough to share it with Kaylee because she didn't know. And from the sounds of it, nobody else in that environment would knew, because I've worked in a supermarket. You tell somebody something, it's all same as at Butlins. It's like Chinese whispers. It will be everywhere before you know. And so the fact that he's kept that so close to his chest, suddenly he's sharing it with her. This is another side to him that he doesn't necessarily want people to see, because he's so conscious of what people think. He wants to keep it private because he doesn't want everyone knowing about it.
Yeah, he does have that side to him. He just he wants to be this reckless Redmond, as he calls himself. He wants to be the star on the stage and be the romantic hero and be things, but something is stopping him, and that's what people think of him, and he's past being hurt. And so I think it's not so much that Kaylee changes him, but that Kaylee's affection for him and approval of him and the way she supports absolutely everything he does makes him bring that side out, and so he starts to reveal that side of him more.
Yeah, because straight away he's like, he gives her the phone and said, look on the internet and watch, and here's the clip of me singing. At the very beginning of the episode, he's singing at the top of his lungs to John Farnham, You're the Voice, and he gets really embarrassed when somebody looks like he's laughing at him. I think, and because it shows how much he trusts her, and that he knows he's sort of in safe hands, and that although she does take the mick out of him, she wouldn't do it in something malicious. And something that's important to him. She is very supportive of it, and it's something that actually comes back again in episode 3 of season 2, when Kaylee convinces John to ditch work for the day and go and have a day at the safari. And when she's trying to talk him into it, and she's saying, come on, you deserve this, you deserve a day off, you do everything for everybody else. And he's like, yeah. And he says, I am like that. And she says, I tell you all the time. And I think that is a really lovely moment, because she's not just saying this to get him to do what she wants. She really is saying to him, you never take time for yourself. It's very clear from sort of little things that are said that he devotes his time to his mum and his grandma more than his brother does. And so he's a bit sort of, he gives his time to everybody else, but he doesn't indulge his own whims. And I think Kaylee is genuinely saying to him, you should, treat yourself more often, do nice things for yourself. She wants him to do all this stuff because it's good for him, not just because she wants him to, because she knows he needs all this. And it's the same with his music. She's bringing out this other side of him that he has, but he's kept hidden. Yeah, I think what also it shows is throughout the series that I think John says about the guy that he's in compendium with, and he talks about his brother and his family. You never hear anything else about any other friends except for the two ex-girlfriends. But Kaylee just talks about Kelly, talks about her brother. She said that she's friends, even though we don't like her, she's friends with Rachel from work, she's friends with Donna from work. She's got this life in this circle, and that she got like outside of work, but John doesn't quite so much, and she's kind of become the voice to say, okay, you do everything for these people, but no one's telling you that you can do more than that. He's just accepted that this is the way it is, and she's like, well, you know what, it doesn't have to be that way, you can do this as well if you want to. And it seems like she's another voice that no one's really been for him, maybe since his dad died, perhaps. I don't know. It's like,
yeah, I think it's perhaps unusual, I don't know, in a lot of Will They Won't They's, the guy seems to be the one who is more chasing the girl, like Moonlighting.
Yeah.
You know, and it's unusual to have, you know, it's all quite always the guy who's very mouthy and like making a hit on the girl, and completely the opposite in Car Share, that it's Kaylee who's more flirtatious and who is clearly trying, without saying outright, is clearly trying to get a relationship going with John, but won't outright ask him or tell him. And that's kind of that's sort of basically the plot of season 2, is that at the end of season 1, when they think they're not going to car share anymore, because Kaylee's moved to Bury, and Kaylee gives John a CD and it says a note on it that says, listen to track 2. Track 2 is From Me to You, and the song is Pure and Simple by Hearsay. And of course the lyrics are, you know, wherever you go, I want to be there at you. I'm pure and simple, going to be there for you. And John sort of obviously realizes that Kaylee does have feelings of a kind.
He's listening to the lyrics. It's just part of it is down to the lighting of the scene, but without that he'd still be glowing, I think. It's like,
he's totally glowing, and he loves it, but he is obviously scared of it, and not quite sure how to deal with it. So at first he pretends he hasn't listened to the CD, and however on the Monday neither of them can resist calling, you know, speaking to each other on the route to work, and it becomes quite clear that they can't cope without each other.
It's actually been 2 days. 2 days. What you were saying though about the CD and the fact that he pretends he doesn't see it, that end scene where she calls him out on it, where she sees the CD in his door, that whole scene is just lovely. And again, it's where music is just perfection in Car Share. It's REO Speedwagon, I Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore, starts playing, and then like she go, he says he hasn't listened to the CD, and because when in the journey in he meets Kaylee pretty well, I say halfway, but it's literally like 2 minutes from the store. On the way back she was going to go to get the train, but it's absolutely chucking it down with rain, so he offers to drive her home, and then by the time he gets back to the house, he goes to leave, and she sees the CD in the store, and then he's just like, I'll pick you up for work tomorrow. And then she was like, and he's like, oh, some things are worth going out of your way for. And then it's REO Speedwagon going, I Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore, playing in the background.
Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore is the unofficial song of shipping, because it's the perfect, you know, what started out as friendship has grown stronger, and you know, and I can't fight this feeling anymore, and blah blah blah.
It's the shipping anthem.
Shipping anthem, that's exactly the phrase. And so using it in that scene is perfect, because it's John just taking that little step to show that, you know, he does know that she likes him, and he, instead of going, oh, well, you know, he doesn't fully embrace it, and he doesn't reject it, he just kind of gives her that little bit.
And then he brushes it off by saying, oh yeah, I've got to drop some parts off of Steve's bike. And it's like, so again, it's like he'll say something, but he'll immediately backtrack it with another comment, like on the drive home, which was meant to be their last drive home together. She says, oh yeah, I'm really going to miss it. She says, oh yeah, I am too, because I'm not going to miss this brick in front though. And then immediately he's like, oh, I've just admitted something here, I need to backtrack, and they'll divert onto something else. So he'll say something, and then it's like, hold on, I'm revealing too much here, and then he'll try and divert it with something less direct. So
that is perfect it's such good writing.
I think one thing we also need to mention, which we haven't mentioned yet, is Sean as Kaylee. Was the friendship between Peter and Sean just is so evident that if any other two people played that without their history, would not have.
Yeah, agreed. I think their chemistry, and they, according to everything they've said, they improvised a lot of the scenes. We don't know how much is script and how much is improvised, which is very shows the quality of both the writing and the improvisation, that they work so well together. So we don't know what's what, but the fact they were able to improvise so much in character, just is, their chemistry is unbelievable. And obviously it's acting, but the looks, especially the looks that Kaylee gives, are just so realistic in reaction to how you would react to somebody that you've got a crush on. And it's just, and the laughter between them. And I think that's something that's a big deal about the show, is that you don't often see TV characters laughing. That, even in comedies, they say something funny and nobody laughs.
And the audience is laughing along with them, and it just draws you in. You feel like you're in the car with them, like, in a way. And it's just, I think that is probably a lot of it as well, is because very rarely are you seen out of that comfort zone of just the two of them in that car. I mean, there is, I think, the scene in the cafe again, which is the only scene in the entire series where that's shot indoors, and occasionally there might be the scene on the driveway, but you're 9 times out of 10 you're in there with them. And I think because that draws you in, you're in that confined space, as it were, you become that more involved.
I think that's the clever, I'm assuming this was Paul Coleman's initial idea, was the idea that when you are in the car, you're in your own little bubble, and it's a very different situation to being walking down the street with someone, or even being in your house with someone. The two of you are sitting there not facing each other, so you can have the conversations that might be a bit awkward face to face if you're both looking forward and the radio is on. And it's a whole world on its own. And I think that's what they build through the series, is that John and Kaylee develop their own little world in that car. And that's why when Kaylee has to walk to work, when she's moved to Mandy's, is so awful to her. It's not that she has to go to work on the bus or whatever, although not fun. It's that she's missing that connection, that time, just the two of them in their own little world. And I think it's really scary for John to take it out into the real world, to take it out of the car and to date or whatever, and I think that's the difficult thing. They don't quite know how to move that relationship, and Kaylee desperately, bless her, keeps trying. I think it's the getting out of the car, and obviously that was the premise of the show, is that they stay in the car. And Peter Kay said that's one of the reasons they decided not to make any more, because they couldn't think of how many more stories to do in the car, and they didn't. By taking it out of the car, it's a different show altogether.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's called Car Share, so it's got that's the premise. And it's, I mean, the key scene, like when in the cafe, they're actually sat down facing each other, and they just have like that banter, that exchange, and she's flirting with the hair and all the rest of it, and it's just a slightly different shift in the dynamic. And I think even like when you get other people, except for Steve, who I think is like really supportive of their relationship all the way through, the other characters are brought into the car. It's like you get Reece Shearsmith as Stink Ray in season 1, you get Connie Hill as Elsie, and they're both completely different. Like Stink Ray team up against, they don't want him in the car, he's annoying, he's really winding them up, and there's looks and exchanges between them. They haven't got to say anything, but they know what the other one's thinking. And in season 2 it's a different dynamic again. Elsie is there, she's a colleague from work that they're driving home, and she acts like the audience. She tells them, like, we know there's something going on, what is going on. And I think Kaylee, by this point, we know how she feels because she's given him the CD. We know how John feels, but he's been less vocal about it. And there's looks between them as well, and she's like playing with the bottle on his ear and things like that. And it's just really subtle key moments throughout that. And even at the end, with Elsie ruins it with a phone call that trope of the annoying telephone ring at pivotal key moments.
Yes,
So,
that is always a good trope is the almost kiss. We may not get there is no snogging in car share. That's my disclaimer.
it's a very
But yes,
small kiss in a dream sequence.
yes. But there is an almost kiss, which is very significant, and I think that the scene where they almost kiss is a big reveal of John's feelings, possibly because Kaylee is quite drunk at that point. He may be yes.
Fluffy drunk.
Fluffy drunk.
Not
She,
fluffy, but you're funny drunk.
yeah, he maybe feels he's able to say more because she's drunk. I don't know, but
She might not remember it.
yeah, she might not remember it. Which we presume because it's never brought up again. We assume they just either she doesn't remember it or he, pretends it doesn't happen. This is the thing I love about. I mean, I love everything about car share, obviously, but the thing I love is the little clues that are planted through the breadcrumbs. That's the phrase I'm looking for. The way that we get this knowledge that John's in a band and he writes his own songs, and then at the end of season 2, well, the supposed end, and they have a moment in the car where Kaylee's basically pushing him to say, look, what's going on between us? Is there something between us? And John's saying, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Let's not define it. Let's just stay the way things are. And Kaylee's not happy because she can't just wait around hoping he is going to declare his love for her. She needs to know, is this going to happen or will I move on to somebody else? And in the end, she gets out of the car and John says he's done, but he's not. We know he's not. And that is the song that plays at that moment is Kaylee by Marillion, which in and of itself, perfect song, Kaylee. However, the lyrics in the song are, Kaylee, I'm still trying to write this love song. Kaylee, it's more important to me now that you're gone. And as we discover in the finale, that's exactly what John does. As his grand gesture to win Kaylee back, he writes her a song. Total.
You really need to write a book about foreboding because you're like your attention to detail is off the chart. It's like...
I love this is the kind of thing I absolutely love that that Peter Kay put all these things in that that's all.
It is genius. His attention to detail is just
something I to show how brilliantly their acting is. They filmed the scene in series 2 episode 1 where they get in the car after the end of day of work and they're just talking about their day at work and the fact that Kaylee got locked out and stuff like that. They also filmed the scene in the finale where they talk about their relationship at the same time. They were filmed on the same day. And the difference in the vibe between the two of them is unbelievable. The vibe in episode 1 is of them relaxed and just, and then in the finale, there's this crackling chemistry. There's a sort of, we like each other now kind of thing.
I would say that they're very underrated in this, but Peter did actually get the BAFTA for this series, and Sean should have got the BAFTA for this series. But it's just like, even in this scene now, like with she's dressed as Hagrid, and some of the things she had to do, like when she was dressed up as being drunk the night before, and the rage that she has to portray throughout this, it goes from one extreme, and it is for a sitcom. I think we don't actually appreciate how good it is in terms of the acting.
Yeah, I think, as you said before, it wouldn't be the same with two other actors, even with another female actor, with Peter Kay. Obviously, Peter Kay has a level that people expect and understand, and he is award-winning, rightly so. But Peter knew that Shan had the same ability, and that together it would work. And he was absolutely right. He knew how good an actress she is in terms of not just, as you say, not just the comedy. She's amazing at the physical comedy. She's very good. But just the subtle reactions, the smiles she has, it's perfect acting. It's so believable that you really think it's real. You believe Kaylee is a person,
Yeah, and I think again, like we just said earlier, because you're in that car with them, you've got no majority of the time there's no other external influences, you're drawn in that much more, you get that much more invested. And I think because if it was like another sitcom where you're cutting between this and this, you're not as involved, and I think you're more likely to get that much more distracted. Whereas in this, you're just drawn in straight away.
It was the first series I ever felt where I watched the entire show and immediately wanted to go back and watch it again. Because most shows you watch and you go, I really enjoyed that. I may watch it in future.
I really don't want to sound, it sounds so contrived and trite, and it's not. This aired at the beginning of 2015, and in the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, I had a lot of crap going on in my personal life, and I was living in London. And by the beginning of 2015, I'd left my job, I'd left my work, I'd left my home, I'd relocated back to Chichester. And I remember I'd just moved into a new house share, and I sat down with my housemate and we watched this, and I proper laughed. And I just the next day I thought, I was just thinking about it the next day, and I thought, I haven't laughed like that in a really long time. And it was therapeutic in a way. And I think, like you, we binge watched the whole thing. And they say laughter is the best medicine, and sometimes it is, but that sticks in my mind a lot because I don't know, it just meant a lot to me then. And
I don't think you're alone in that. I think I've seen a lot of people say, I don't know whether it was just a coincidence of time or what, that it really helped them through a bad patch. It shows the impact it's had. And you may think, well, how strange is that? It's a little romantic sitcom, 12 episodes, nothing. How can it affect people's lives so much? But it really, really has changed our lives because, we're here doing this, and we would only be doing this because of car share.
Yeah, and I think earlier you mentioned that Rob introduced us, and it also our friend Fee, she was the one that I'd written something and I posted online, and I said, no, I was going to post online, and she sent it to you to read first. And I remember, I think you messaged me like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd never actually spoken to you on Twitter before, and you messaged me back and like says it, and since I say, I think no turning back since then. So we'll blame Rob and we'll blame Fee.
Yes.
It's just amazing how we're simple, like everyone that was on the fandom was on such the same wavelength. And again, like you say with Rob, if you mentioned anybody there's a hashtag if you go back through, which was CarShare Fam, and Rob was he was like the leader of that. I think he was affectionately known amongst the group as the King of the North, and I still stand by that. He was just so lovely. I mean, again, like when I had some stuff go on, I messaged him privately, and he was just really supportive. And I know if you speak to other people in the group, he was the same to them as well. And I think this, again, just reiterating what we said at the beginning, this is why we dedicated it to him.
But I think with car share, the fandom has really reflected in the show, in that it feels small and warm and very British. We do have some international people, but it is something, it just is a reflection of the show. And as we say, there's a lot of men in the fandom who really fell in love with Kaylee, because frankly, who didn't? The entire nation fell in love with Kaylee, and felt that affinity with John. They felt like they were romantic heroes, just desperate to have that, break free of their British exterior and be the guy, be John Cusack with a ghetto blaster standing outside the girl's house, and I think the fandom really reflected what the show is. And I know, I agree with you what you're saying, we sound trite, we sound like we're being paid to say this, but it is just something that is so important to us and has brought so many people happiness. And it just doesn't have the same politics. I don't mean politics as in government, I mean TV politics that other shows had, where cancellations and problems with the shows. It didn't have that. It was set out start to finish by Peter Kay. This is exactly how it's going to be, and they did it.
We just had been winding it up.
So it's one of these little moments in time where a TV show just captured a moment, captured this story perfectly, and the audience was there willing for it. And I think it will go on as one of the BBC's classics, along with Miranda and similar shows. So that is car share. We have some further content on car share, because Lucy and I decided that we spend a lot of time talking to each other on Zoom and not recording because we are not in a fit state to recording. So we've decided to do some audio content where we watch episodes of things and talk about them. That's sort of Gogglebox-y reaction video type thing, because it cuts around the problem of having to show, get copyright, all that stuff.
Having to do our makeup.
Their makeup, tidy up, although you can't see the rest of my room and there's a reason for that.
You can't see mine, it's like a bomb stuff.
So I'm not going to make the commitment that it will be below this because we've got a very short time frame.
It's big imminence.
It will be there soon. And it's I was going to say Kaylee and I.
Well, if you check out in our little corner here, we've got the shipyard. There's at the shipyard dust.
Yes.
Is that the shipyard?
On Twitter or Instagram or Facebook at the shipyard UST, you will get any updates on when we post things, so you'll never miss them. And if you subscribe to YouTube, you will get updates and never miss them.
Also, if you like our tweets or our posts or our Instagrams, please follow us as well, because you can get to see our posts a little bit quicker. But yeah, so please like and follow us because we're lovely and we deserve it.
Yes, exactly. Why lie?
I'm saying anymore. It's like it's 10:25 and I have no idea what I'm saying. The switch is gone. It's all downhill from here. So anyway,
the first podcast will probably be us watching episode 1, 3, and 6 of season 1 of Car Share, because we think that's the most sort of significant episodes, and just talking our way through it. And we're not quite entirely sure how it's going to work, so please give us feedback. Let us know what you think of it.
It might not be the entire episodes because otherwise it'll be an hour and a half long.
Yes.
So we might just be, we talk about it, we mention key scenes, key points, what we think are relevant. We might occasionally just overlap what we've said a little bit here this evening. So, but we'll try not to bore you too much. But it's just I'm going to try something like a bit like piece of case at the beginning of the unscripted. We're going to try something a little bit different. So sorry, did you just see that fly just go?
Getting attacked now.
Oh my goodness, it's just and that's how we're professional.
Our last bit of business for this occasion is shipwrecks. Every video we recommend a TV show to watch with a good ship. This month, as June is Pride Month, we're going to focus on an LGBTQ relationship, and that is Wayhaught from Wynonna Earp. Wynonna Earp is a science fiction series, science fiction / Western. I know, not a thing you would often assume to go together. And it's about Wyatt Earp's great granddaughter, Wynonna Earp, who has inherited his gun, Peacemaker, and there are these things called revenants in the Ghost River Triangle, which are sort of demon-esque things. It's a bit Buffy Vampire Slayer-esque in the kind of, there's monsters, various kinds of supernatural beings, and she has to get rid of them, and Wynonna is very kick-ass, and she has a headship with Doc Holliday, her great-great-grandfather's best friend, which I realize is weird in an age kind of thing, but he's ageless due to magic, obviously. They have a great Willy-Wonka ship, but Wayhaught is a relationship between Wynonna's sister Waverly and Nicole Hott, who comes in, I think it's season 2 she comes in as the local sheriff. Maybe it's halfway through season 1, I can't remember. Anyway, a local sheriff, she comes in, and up until that point Waverly had believed she was straight, and then she falls in love with Nicole and realizes she's not straight. And it is a really, really, really beautiful ship. It is loving and warm and exciting because, of course, their lives are forever in danger because supernatural beings. But it is also safe to watch because there is no kill your gays Emily Andres, who created the show and writes the show, said, no, we will never do that. We won't do it, Willow and Tara. And they don't, and they have a very happy ending. Assuming it's the ending, the series has finished after 4 seasons. There's still a campaign to get a 5th season, bring Wynonna home. But as it stands, they have a happy ending, and it's definitely worth watching. They're just 2 of the most beautiful women anyway as well. So, you know, in a shallow way, it's beautiful to watch. So check out Wynonna Earp for either of the ships. So Wynonna and Doc or Wayhaught. Okay, I think that's us today.
I think so. I think that's it. The next episode, I think, will probably be the 1st of August now, to give us a little bit of time to sit down and plan. We're going to work on a few things over the summer, and we're hopefully going to come back with a bit of a vengeance in September when all the seasons start up again. So we want to see where all your ships ended up. I know there was quite a few resolutions on various things, like in Grey's Anatomy, Station 19, Chicago Fire. They all had massive Law and Order SVU. There was a lot of resolutions going on. So if you want to have a go over to our Twitter, again, at the Shipyard UST, and just let us know, were you happy with where your ships ended up in the last season, or how it ended in the finales? Where do you want them to go, and what are you looking forward to coming back in the September seasons when they all start up again?
Have a good summer if you're you know, depending on how you see summer, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, not summer, winter. So basically, forget what I just said. Have a good July. And we'll hope
if it's your birthday, we do this for quite a few birthdays coming up in July and June.
Oddly enough,
a lot next week.
A lot of the characters.
Sorry, happy birthday for tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
It's birthday tomorrow. Many happy returns.
Thank
you.
So
can I just say?
all the good people are Cancerians. It's a strange coincidence that a lot of the Carshire fandom are Cancerians, and both Peter and Shan are too. So if you believe in horoscopes,
we just need to find out Paul Coleman, when's your birthday?
Okay, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you in August. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.